Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Tuesday, June the 3rd, 2025. So, of course, a friendly reminder to everybody, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, we're going to give people a chance to come in, a few minutes to come in before we get started. I hope everybody's having is having a good day today. And I, of course, continue to try to see if I can reach out to people to let them know I'm on. La 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 la. Alrighty then. So, see. Oh yeah, so I was watching, of course, some cartoons earlier. I'm getting as we just got through about the first half of stuff that came out in December of 1937. So some interesting stuff there. Oswald cartoon. Let's see, a Scrappy cartoon, Popeye. And of course, the last of the Little Cheezers cartoons that were done by Harmonizing as part of their Happy Harmony series. So, okay, so now we're just past the 3-minute mark. So I guess I'll talk about what's on tap tonight. I got a couple of stories I'm going to go over. One from Bounding into Comics, one from Bleeding Fool. Bounding into Comics one's talking about in regards to Marvel. So Marvel Comics executive editor stands by Captain America Hydra storyline. Of course, Don Brevoort once again, doing something I guess that fans don't like, and then as we're hearing more about, of course, the Diamond distributors, and this article on Bleeding Fool, hearing more about how more publishers are pulling away from Diamond distributors, and then, of course, after that, we'll, of course, get into the wrestling wrap-up, look back to last night's, Monday Night Raw, look ahead to tonight's NXT, also look ahead to this weekend's both Money in the Bank and AAA's Wooden Worlds Collide events. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. I do need to step away from the camera for a moment. I'll be right back. Put some music on while I'm gone here. Then when I come back, we'll get right into it. Be right back. And I'm back, so why don't we go ahead and get started now? So let me go ahead and pull up the first article of the evening and we'll get into that. Alrighty then. And again, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream so we get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Alrighty then, so let's get to this. Marvel Comics executive editor stands by Captain America Hydra storyline. Quote, I wouldn't do any of it differently, unquote. Article by Spencer Cooley, published earlier today. So let's get into this then. Despite all the controversy, outrage, and general discourse surrounding the entire affair, Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort says that if he were ever given the chance to redo the infamous, in smaller quotes, Captain Hydra is a secret Hydra agent, unsmaller quote, reveal, he, quote, wouldn't do any of it differently, unquote. So it would appear, would of course appear that once again he's basically doing things that are probably not that the fans are not too happy with. But let's continue on with the article here. As previously reported, the topic of the controversial 2016 storyline was first brought to Brevoort's recent attention on May 25th, when, for that week's edition of his Man with a Hat Substack blog's regular, in small quotes, a comic I worked on that came out on this date feature, he chose to offer his thoughts on its kickoff issue, Captain America, Steve Rogers, Volume 1, Number 1. Quote, here comes trouble, unquote, began the Marvel Comics editor. Quote, in brackets, this issue, unbracketed, came out on May 25th, 2016, marking the first time that Rogers picked up the identity of the living legend of World War II in a couple of years. But of course, all anybody remembers about this first issue is its final pages, in which the rejuvenated Rogers reveals that something is very wrong with him, and he reveals that he's an operative working for Hydra, unquote. All right. Yeah, Hydra, one of the big bad organizations of the Marvel universe, I guess. Quote, if we were over concerned about bringing back Bucky, we were perhaps under concerned about the impact that this moment was going to have when it hit, unquote, Brevoort recalled. Quote, we knew it was going to cause controversy. That was pretty much the whole point. But fans went crazy, and not even just fans. This moment became the center of the culture wars, with any number of bad actors pointing at it as evidence of some manner of moral decay that had infected the entire industry, unquote. Yeah, going against the grain of what characters were established as probably is something that quote, things were serious enough that I received death threats for allowing this to happen. I had to cancel an appearance at that year's Baltimore Comic Con due to a threat that was sent from the Baltimore area, and that the police we consulted considered a legitimate threat, and not just some blowhard spouting off, unquote, he continued. Quote, fun times. The person who got hit the hardest was probably writer Nick Spencer, and most of those who were angry didn't want to hear that this was the first move in a carefully constructed storyline that was going to play out over the next 18 months or so, unquote. Yeah. Well, the whole idea of making one of your stalwart heroes into a bad guy is not going to sit well. But regardless of that, making death threats is never okay. All right. Yes, there's always there's always an understanding of, yeah, you don't like something, but threatening to kill somebody, or even giving any major consideration to following through on such threats is never okay. Never. Quote, it was a big, brassy story, maybe too big at certain points, and one that Nick almost lost control of at one point or another, unquote, wrote Braveheart, wrapping up his reflection. Quote, but ultimately, we were able to keep the whole thing together long enough to land the plane in a mostly satisfying way in the Secret Empire crossover that came the following year, lost in the crowd a little bit, but probably thankful for it in this instance, was artist Jesus Saiz, who turned in some seriously great artwork on the issue and those that followed, unquote. Having piqued his readers' curiosity on the nearly decade-old storyline, Braveheart was asked by another reader, quote, considering the controversy that surrounded the Captain America Steve Rogers series, is there anything you would change with hindsight? Or do you feel that the general premise of the story would get that kind of reaction no matter what? Unquote. Presenting his answer in the latest edition of his Substack blog, the Marvel Comics editor asserted, quote, I think there was a specific confluence of events outside of the comic book industry that resulted in that reaction getting so much traction. So timing was a part of it. But also, there were plenty of people who were uninvolved in reading comics who decided that they needed to be outraged about those developments as part of the larger culture war battles. Unquote. Quote, those folks I didn't tend to pay a lot of attention to at all, as they were irrelevant to the sales of the series. Unquote. When people probably weren't even buying the series, so I can see that. He then admitted, quote, so no, I wouldn't do any of it any differently, in parentheses there, except perhaps to find some way to deliver electric shocks to writer Nick Spencer so that he'd get his material done slightly earlier. Unsmall quote, in parentheses, unsmall quote. Now, mind you, okay, if you really don't like a creative direction a writer or artist is doing, right? You know what you do? Don't buy the book. Simple as that. The less money they make, the more likely they're going to realize that what they wrote didn't really get over with fans, and they're not going to continue such writings. Okay, you really want to send a message instead of doing something stupid like making death threats. Okay, stop buying the book. Don't buy the book. That sends if anything, that sends a much louder, clearer message, I believe, than making death threats. Quote, no matter what you do, no matter what story you tell, there are going to be those who aren't going to like it. And in order to do your best work, you can't be cowed by what people might say about the work, which is true. He ultimately concluded, quote, and almost a decade later, Captain America is still fine and well, so all the agita was ultimately a tempest in a teapot anyway, unquote. All right, and there we go with that one. So we go with that story. And now with that, let's get ready to move on to the next piece of niche history here. And I got to do something real quick here. I'll be right back. All right, now I'm back. So, anyways, we will now get ready to move on to the next story here. Should I pull it up? And it would appear that we are heading into a slightly less active time in the world of niche news, it would appear. All right, so here we go. All right, so More comics publishers part ways with Diamond Distribution after bankruptcy. Article by Avi Green, published June 3rd, 2025. All right, so let's see what Avi has to say here. Comic Book Club announced that Udon Entertainment, notable for their comic adaptations based on Street Fighter, is just one of the latest companies to stop working with the now bankrupt Diamond Distribution. So this is from the Comic Book Club article. Udon Entertainment is the latest company to cut ties with Diamond Comic Distributors. The company announced late last night, May 29th, that both Udon and Manga Classics Corporated will no longer ship product through the bankrupt company. Quote, with the current state of uncertainty and lack of communication from the owners to both retailers as well as many publishers, we have to do what is best to serve our customers, unquote, said Udon Chief of Operations Eric Koh via a press release provided to Comic Book Club. Quote, we realize this is a deep inconvenience for many retailers, but we're trying to do our best to serve our partners and fans while minimizing risk and moving forward in an uncertain time, unquote. And an obvious response here, good for them. It'll be even more promising if I hear news of publishers who want to make the switch to paperback hardcover only. For now, after so many years, where Diamond surely did more harm than good in distribution marketing, that's why all realists in publishing should stop relying on Diamond services to deliver their comics and other products around. There's serious need for competition, and this is the perfect time to find the best multiple distributors going forward. And there definitely are some who are far more reliable than Diamond ever turned out to be. That one was a pretty quick one, so let's see now. Hey, if it shows up, thanks for dropping in. You can like and share the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. All right, so I'm done with at least done with the ones that I had some advanced penchant for in terms of. So let me see if I can find some other articles, as we're still quite a bit early here. All right, actually, I don't even know why I did that. The whole point was I was. Anyways, and again, if anything other than what if you got something on your mind in the realm of anime, cartoons, comics, manga, pro wrestling, feel free to ask any questions or bring any subjects up that you might want to talk about here. La 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 la. Let's see now. As I said, I'm just looking to see if there's anything else that I could report on here. Nothing really of interest there. See if anything new came up on MeTV Tunes that might be of interest. Nope. All right. So, anyways, yeah, it looks like there's not much else going on. Well, let me check one more time. Bounding in the comics. All right. So yeah. All right. Yeah. So it seems like it's just a slow news day overall. So let's see now. All right. So what? Wait, what did I just do there? Yeah. All right. All right. So let's see. Well, we're at 28 minutes now, so maybe a couple more minutes here. So let's see. So, and I know I did go over a story yesterday from ETV Tunes talking about how June Foray got the Annie Award started. So that was a pretty interesting story we covered yesterday. Oh yeah, and I did stop in on Vomitorium last night. You know, we kind of had a little bit of a nice little bull session, as it were. You know, talking about anime, cartoons, and all that. This also the time. This also the time of year over in Japan as the spring season of releases start. The spring set of shows starts to come to an end. The shows that premiered in April are now winding down their final episodes. At least they're the ones that are like 12 or 13 episode. Some of them are about halfway through, and then so in another month here, of course, we'll you'll start seeing the summer releases of the year going on. So that's it. All right. So, anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the wrestling wrap up. There doesn't seem to be much else to talk about elsewhere. So we're going to look back to last night's Monday Night Raw. Going to talk about what happened on last night's Monday Night Raw. As, of course, so the night opened up with a triple threat qualifying match for the Money in the Bank, in which Stephanie McCurr defeated Ivy Nile and Liv Morgan to qualify for the Money in the Bank. So coming right up, last week, basically being called up to the main roster, and then Stephanie Vaquer is now in the Money in the Bank match. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes here. Then you had in the segment Judgment Day duo of Finn Balor and JD McDonough defeat the War Raiders of Eric and Ivar. And in some other news too, so one more WWE release was just confirmed over the weekend as well, as Valhalla, also known as Sarah Logan, was also apparently released from the WWE along with R-Truth and Carlito. And of course, the Judgment Day did do some tribute to Carlito, wearing some of his gear and all that. Jey Uso and Sami Zayn defeated Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed by DQ when Seth Rollins came out and attacked both Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, only to be saved, of course, by CM Punk. CM Punk came out to save two of them, and which would play into the aftermath of the main event on the show a little later. Kairi Sane defeated Raquel Rodriguez in a one-on-one match after Liv Morgan's attempt at Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez's attempts at interference backfired. Kairi Sane getting the insane elbow drop on Raquel Rodriguez to get the 3 count. And it did lead to some tension backstage within the Judgment Day, as Liv was confronting Finn about Roxanne's involvement in the Judgment Day. And the main event, El Grande Americano qualified for the Money in the Bank in a triple threat match in which he defeated AJ Styles and CM Punk. Of course, he got the pin on Styles after headbutting him, and then after the match, saw CM Punk get attacked by Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed, and then also had Sami Zayn and Jey Uso come out to try to help him out, only for them to get dropped. So that's all that happened on last night's Monday Night Raw. Then, so now looking ahead to tonight's NXT. Looking ahead to tonight's NXT on I believe it's the CW. Tonight's NXT, coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, we'll see opening match. We'll see the 6-man tag match in which 3 of the Dark State members of Osiris Griffin, Cutler James, Deion Lennox, and Saquon Sugars. 3 of those 4 will be taking on Chase U of Andre Chase, Cale Dixon, and Uriah Connors. In a rounds match, Charlie Dempsey takes on Miles Bourne in a battle of no quarter catch crew. The main event will see Trick Williams defend the TNA World title against Mike Santana. Mike Santana, who issued a challenge last week and was granted the opportunity to go after the title on NXT this week. So, and now with that being said, of course, that's all that's happening on tonight's NXT. Now looking ahead to this weekend's events, as of course both WWE's Money in the Bank and the co-event, co-promoted event with AAA when WWE Worlds Collide will both be taking place in Inglewood, California this Saturday, June 7th. Money in the Bank will be on Netflix and coming from the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. Signed for this Saturday, of course, Lyra Valkyria will be defending the WWE Women's Intercontinental title against Becky Lynch. Now, I believe all the members of the Money in the Bank, I believe both Money in the Bank matches have been set now. As in the women's Money in the Bank match, it's set up for, of course, Alexa Bliss, Julia, Naomi, Roxanne Perez, Rhea Ripley, and Stephanie Vaquer have all qualified. Those are your 6 participants, with the winner getting a contract to challenge for the for whatever, for either the W Women's or W Women's World title at some point in the near future. On the men's side, the following men have qualified for the Money in the Bank: Andrade, El Grande Americano, LA Knight, Penta, Seth Rollins, and Solo Sikoa. With again the men's winner getting a contract to challenge for either the WWE or the WWE Undisputed or the WWE World's heavyweight title. And the main event for this Saturday night, we'll see John Cena and Logan Paul taking on Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. John Cena, of course, the undisputed champion, while Jey Uso being the world champion. And of course, Jey Uso is also set to defend the world championship against Gunther. Here's my latest XCOM video. All right, so if you guys want to go check that out, there's a link to that. If you guys want to, go check out, if it shows those channel and subscribe and all that. So, well, anyways, continuing on here. Now, also coming up on Saturday will be the World Collide event from the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California, being co-promoted by both WWE and AAA. As some of you may have known, WWE did purchase AAA, and now they'll be having a Win Worlds Collide, which will be a co-promoted event with WWE and primarily with WWE and AAA talent involved. The opening match we'll see in a trios match. The LWO members of Cruz del Toro, Dragon Lee, and Joaquin Wilde. Joaquin Wilde, who had a very scary possible injury last night on the speed taping. They'll be taking on the trio of Aerostar, Mr. Iguana, and Octagon Jr. Octagon Jr., of course, one half of the Aztec Warriors of TNA fame. In a women's tag team match, Chick Tormenta and Dalise will take on NXT's Lola Vice and current Raw superstar Stephanie McCure. Stephanie McCure will actually be pulling double duty. She'll be involved in that tag match as well as being involved in the Money in the Bank match. So that's going to be a very interesting situation for her. The WWE NXT North American title will be defended in a fatal four-way match as Ethan Page will defend the title against current AAA World Cruiserweight Champion Laredo Kid, SmackDown superstar Rey Fenix, and NXT superstar Javon Evans. In another trios match, Legado del Fantasma of Angel, Berto, and Santos Escobar team out to take on AAA's El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr., Vegano, and Psycho Clown. And then the main event we'll see for the AAA Mega title, El Hijo del Vikingo, who had just won the title this past Saturday at the Alianzas event over former champ Alberto El Patron, will be answering the challenge of Chad Gable. So with that, I believe that's as much of the wrestling wrap-up as I have for you. Let's see. Any other news? I do need to step away from the camera for a moment, so I'll be right back. But I'll put some music on. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, anyways, I had my light on for most of the show here because of the fact we had some rain going on earlier, but now it would appear that sun's back out for a little bit here. So I went ahead and turned off my light there. All right, so now we got all the wrestling news out of the way. So I think I will go ahead and take a look with today being Tuesday, June the 3rd, 2025. Why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history? History! 1965, 1955, 1955, 1995. All right. All right, so first off, I'd actually like to wish a happy 70th birthday to American animator and film director, comic book writer and illustrator, um, Phil Nibelink. Phil Nibelink turns 70 today. Most notably, of course, he's known for he he's known for his work on films like the Academy Award-winning Who Framed Roger Rabbit and the 1991 cult animated sequel, An American Tale, Fievel Goes West. He actually directed that one, as I recall. So happy 70th birthday to American animator, film director, comic book writer, and illustrator, Phil Nibelink. So there we go with that one. Now getting ready to move on to the next piece of Nietzsche history here. As 1955 is just so nice that we're gonna hit it twice. As on this date 70 years ago, Hardboiled Haggerty and Stu Gibson defeated Larry Cheney and Rose Zapata in Houston to become the new NWA Texas Tag Team champions. So on this day, 70 years ago today, Hardboiled Haggerty and Stu Gibson did Larry Cheney and Rose Zapata in Houston, Texas to become the new NWA Texas Tag Team champions. Oh, there we go with that one. Let's see. Now, let's see. Moving on to 1965, 60 years ago today. On this date, 60 years ago today, the 45th issue of Challengers of the Unknown from DC, which was known back then as National Periodical Publications, went on sale on this date back in 1965. The bi-monthly comic that sold for 12 cents for 32 pages. The story was The Queen of Challenger Haters. Queen of Challenger Haters, written by Arnold Drake, with art done by Bob Brown, with, of course, the Challengers of the Unknown being the featured characters in here, with those being Ace Morgan, Rocky Davis, Red Ryan, Professor Haley. And the League of Challenger Haters were the villains of the story, with Multi-Man, the Volcano Man, Drabney, Craw, Multi-Woman 2, a robot, upgraded from the original Multi-Woman. And the story was in 3 parts. Part 2 was Deadly Allies, and Part 3 was Prisoners of Earth. So, on this date, 60 years ago today, the 45th issue of Challengers of the Unknown went on sale on newsstands on this date 60 years ago. And finally, finally, on this date in 1995, from E&G Films, E&G Films, Tobey Pegasus premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 1995. So 30 years ago today, E&G Films Tobey Pegasus premiered in Japanese theaters on this date back in 1995, 30 years ago today. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I know we're running a little shy tonight, but just one of those nights where it just doesn't seem like there was a whole lot to report on. So but before I leave, of course, just want to remind everybody we'll be back here with more niche news tomorrow. We'll of course be looking at what happened on tonight's NXT show, what the results of all that. We'll be looking ahead to tomorrow night's AEW Dynamite as they continue to build towards All In, as AEW will have some co-promoted events over the next few weeks. We'll obviously talk about that. And don't forget, this Sunday, I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium. We'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in May of 1940. We'll be looking at comics that went on sale from Quality Comics. We'll be looking at, of course, National Comics, Crack Comics, Smash Comics, Hit Comics. We'll be looking at such features as, of course, and feature comics as well. So we'll be looking at, of course, Dollman, Uncle Sam, The Clock, Black Condor, let me see. Red Bee, Neon the Unknown, and Invisible Hood. Now, mind you, that's like 7 features. Don't know if we will get into all 7. The pay. I think we can. That's why I'm planning for it. But depending upon how much we discuss and what we talk about and all that, you never know. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be basically so anyways, yes, I am trying to stretch out the time a little bit here, trying to get it to a certain point here. I know I won't get it up to where I was wanting to try to get it, but still at least trying to make it to where everything's at least kind of trying to even out a little bit more here, time-wise. Anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And I guess with that, I'll bring it to an end. So thank you, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.